Welcome to Sky Sports IndyCar. I'm delighted to say that joining me today is Callum Ilott, all the way from Indianapolis, as we look ahead to Texas Motor Speedway this weekend. But let's first and foremost look back to St. Petersburg. You're coming off the back of your best ever IndyCar finish, 5th place. Talk us through that weekend and what it felt like to net that result.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it was an amazing weekend. Didn't start off that way. I think we were struggling quite a bit with pace, especially early on in the weekend. But we definitely put it together on the Sunday. We had a good race car, good strategy, and made it work, which was nice. It was a chaotic race, very long. As most of you saw, there were quite a few yellows and cautions, but we stayed clean and just kept working our way through it. It overall to finish P5 was incredible because I think that is probably our slowest track or one of our slowest tracks. Especially after last year, there was a lot of improvement that we needed to do going back there, and I don't think we really achieved that side of things, especially on the Friday and Saturday. But when we came on Sunday, it was a good race car, so we managed to make it work.
How hard is it in IndyCar? I mean, you're a rookie, but you have such limited rookie last year, I should say, second year this year. You have such limited off season. Is it hard to sort of put into practice some of the things that you want to try, change coming into your second year?
Yeah, look, it's difficult anyway with the off season that we have, but I think it was even more difficult because I went through last year with not having a teammate. We didn't have access to a simulator, and we're a very small team. We were the only single car team, so it was very difficult and a slow process to build up and establish what we needed to improve on, how to improve it, and actually getting the parts and the ideas necessary to improve on it. And over the winter, yeah, you're kind of sat there like, I think we could do this, I think we could do that, we might need this, we might need that. But then at the same time, I think it was an overall IndyCar issue, but we were struggling to hire people. We were a bit behind on that side. We were behind on the cars. So we were wondering also on the development side if we were going to achieve it or not. But when we rocked up in thermal for the preseason testing, we had a good car. We definitely have a good road course car. The street circuit car is probably our weakest area, but we improved a couple of things for that. And then the oval car, as we're going to see this weekend, that's going to be quite a difference. Obviously, ovals was new to me as well as a driver, so I think we've improved a couple of things, but again, you never know until you arrive, and also all these other teams are improving as well. That's what we found at St. Pete. We thought we'd made quite a few steps, and you find out that all the other teams have as well, which is just the way it goes. But that's what makes IndyCar so challenging and competitive.
Now, we'll talk about Texas and the ovals in just a moment, but your Chris Hollinger squad has grown. You've got a teammate, you've just mentioned that, but you must have some more team personnel as well. We spoke to Felix Rosenquist a few weeks ago, and he said when he went back into the shop at McLaren, he didn't recognise half the people that were there. How has that changed the dynamic, and how many new faces have you got there?
Yeah, I mean, I know from McLaren's side, I think they were on a mission over the winter to get as many people as possible, and that was for a third car. So for us, expanding to two cars, that's 50% of our team, or an increase in the team. So it's pretty impressive. Again, lots of new faces. We tried to keep quite a lot of the people around me central, and stay there. But of course, at the same time, you need to share. You can't leave everything new on another side of the team, otherwise that's just a mess as well. But it's great, having extra data, having more feedback and everything to work on it makes life quite a bit easier and quite a bit more things to discover, and also having just extra thoughts, extra ideas. I think as a team we've come a long way, and it really impressed me the smaller gains that we made just in so many little areas just by putting things together, and that kind of showed on Sunday at St. Pete, which was nice. But yeah, the important thing is getting that car fast, to me anyway, and that's the thing that's probably the most challenging, but we're slowly getting there.
And Augustine Campino, very much a different career path to yours. He must have a sort of new set of eyes. He's learning, of course, but he did a good job in St. Petersburg as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, if anyone's interested, his story is very interesting and different to a lot of the European scenes that we see of karting into Formula 4, Formula 3, Formula 2, or even GTs. He I think only started when he was 16 and didn't even do karting. He went straight into, I believe, the touring cars out there. I might be wrong. I might get corrected on that. But that was what I understood, and he's super impressive for having no single seater experience at all to jump into IndyCar. It's not easy at all. Of course, there's always things to learn, and the last part is always difficult. But he did a great job in St. Pete and kept it clean, which is also important in your first weekends. You need to learn as much as you can, and a super nice guy as well. But yes, it's a learning process for him, the same as it was for me last year. And again, coming to the ovals is going to be a shock for him as it was for me. But we just did the first test in Texas last week. I was there to help out a bit. And yeah, like anything, you just have to get on with it and do the best job you can.
How did he get in or get on in that rookie orientation? Because the weather wasn't great, was it? But you were there. A bit of an advantage maybe for you and your team, bit of data.
Yeah, I think it's quite helpful for us, especially there's a couple of new regulations that we have with aero parts and stuff like that, so it's quite nice to collect some information for sure. But these days are like 100% necessary for him. The weather was difficult, but they got an extension, so another day afterwards, to run. And yeah, that means he got, 2 days, different conditions, got a feeling for it. The problem is there's only two other cars on track. So one thing is driving on your own on an oval. It's quite a bit easier and quite a bit nicer. And then when you go out in practice at the end of this week and you've got 26 other cars around a 20-second lap time, it's just carnage. You're constantly being wary, you're losing all your momentum, and the dirty air behind another car is just it's something that you just can't get your head around because it's different to a road course or different to anything in Europe. I felt even in a high speed corner, so you can find out things that you didn't and you didn't know about, the way you can follow people, and it is quite specific to this car. But then, yeah, you get to the race and that starts crazy. The timing that you've got to have is crazy. It's a real different type of racing. I mean, the closest I can think of, and I might be wrong on this, is like the pack racing in cycling, getting that timing right and using other people to your advantage, whether it's with fuel saving, or even timing the runs. You've got two people in front, they start fighting. That guy just enters a little bit too close to the guy in front of him, and you can just sail around the outside as he loses momentum. It's incredible. It's really tough, and I don't think people appreciate it enough. I definitely didn't from the outside before doing it, and then I got into it. I'm like, oh man, I have so much to learn.
And experience speaks volumes on the ovals, doesn't it? It's one of those forms of motorsport where you really can't simulate every aspect, and you just have to have that valuable seat time. And you can really see that when you see the season campaigners pushing through year after year and what they're able to achieve on the ovals. And when the commentators say the pit lane's your friend, you'll see the experienced runners just sat down in pit road, biding their time, knowing when to go out and not knowing when to go out. And it looks very, very difficult in that sense. So a young head on your shoulders, second year, heading into the ovals for 2023. What do you think you learnt last year, and what do you want to sort of put into practice this year?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing what I give IndyCar credit for is the diversity of all the tracks we go to. So even between the ovals, we've got vastly different types of ovals with the banking, with the bumps. I mean, Indy 500 feels like a kind of road course oval in a certain way, and then you get to Iowa, and that super bumpy street circuit feeling, but you're going 180 miles an hour. It's pretty incredible. But yeah, as a now veteran, I guess, as a second year driver, I just, IndyCar is a crazy championship, crazy races. You've got at least two pit stops, sometimes even five, six pit stops in a race, and anything can happen. You can go from being last to being first by getting the strategy right, I guess. It can be wrong, can be right, and the same way, you could go to the last laps and get caught out by a caution, and your day's over. And it's all about being patient. I had a lot of races last year where I got a bit more frustrated than I should have, and then things turn the other way around, and you're in a good position again, or they don't turn around, and that's just the week it is. But yeah, it's about being patient. It's about doing the right thing. I mean, St. Pete was one of those races where I ended up putting myself into a good position, and I knew I didn't have the pace to win, so I just took my time and was like, okay, this is a good result. I'll take this for the team. I don't need to try and push much more because I don't think I'm gonna do much more than one position more. And people were, trying to take advantage of that from other people and kept making mistakes, and we ended up P5, just kept moving forward because we held back. And that kind of describes IndyCar. Of course, it doesn't work every weekend, but just taking your time works very well. But of course,
If you
as
look at Will Power's campaign, that was very much his title-winning campaign
yeah,
as
he
well.
didn't. He won one race, so he
Yeah.
kept just getting points and being there, and it's so important in this championship. So yeah, that's kind of the attitude that I have to it. The biggest thing I learned from last year.
You sound pretty relaxed at St. Pete. The team radio that went viral afterwards.
Yeah,
Talk us through.
I mean, it was quite relaxed considering how hot and demanding it is in that car. It's really not easy. It's the toughest car I've ever driven in my life, and we've got some long, long races. But yeah, it was just going on for ages. So I was asking if I could get paid by the hour. Hopefully bump up that a little bit. But yeah, no, they're great guys. I love working with them all. We have built it from the ground up as a team, and I respect everyone a lot, and they support me a lot as well. So it's good to have a joke. They're also pushing very hard in these pit stops, so it's good to keep everyone relaxed, not making mistakes, and the pressure's on, but at the same time you can't overdo it. Everyone's pushing so hard, so sometimes it's just good to take a chill pill.
Yeah, exactly. And you talk about other athletes, I don't know, cricket, golf, whatever it is, switching off and switching back on. You've got to have that moment under safety car. You can't be, holding the steering wheel like it's running away from you all the time. You need to be able to control of the lead. I'm going to read out your Instagram post from the other day where it says, back to turning left at stupid speeds this time next week. Would always like to go back in time and ask who came up with this idea, what the thought process was behind it, but at least it's good fun. I love that. And, we've talked about people not understanding how tricky it is to get your head around the whole sort of oval weekend, the race, but just that actual sheer, I don't know, just challenge. It's a challenge from a mental perspective and also a physical perspective.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing with it is you've got to have a lot of trust. You've got to have a lot of trust in your car, a lot of trust on the other drivers on the track, and that makes a big difference. So having trust in the car and having a good car on the day is the difference between you having a good result or not. The moment you lose confidence in that car, you just see people go backwards. The moment they have a little moment, they aren't coming back from it, at least in the next 10 laps, that's for sure. So that's the first thing, building yourself up, understanding your car, understanding your equipment, and then trusting the people around you because, our weekend is 50 minutes of practice before going into qualifying, I believe. And you go from 50 minutes of practice where you probably won't even get one clear corner of no air in front of you, so no dirty air, sorry, and then you've got to go into qualifying and do 2 laps with all the wings trimmed out, so you've probably got a lot less downforce on the car. It's starting to float on you and slide, and you've just got to know that you've got to be flat. So you have to put your brake foot on the throttle, on top of your throttle foot, and just hold it and hope that you're going to be flat. And that's where, of course, we all end up doing it, but that's where that craziness and that trust comes in. And yeah, I thought 2, 3 years ago that I wouldn't ever be in this position to be racing round ovals, and I thought everyone who did it was crazy, but I've come and done it, and yeah, I'm probably still a little bit crazy in my own mind, but it's good fun. So
But you talk to I think Christian Lundgaard said the same thing. You know, you he's up to speed, but just still getting his head around going around those super speedways. It's going to take more than just a couple of cracks of the whip.
oh, for sure. It's the super speedways are incredible. You get no feeling from the car. It's very difficult, and they're all very different. Texas has a lot of banking compared to in the Indy 500 course, and yeah, I had a bad Indy 500. I ended up crashing, and it was quite a big impact. And then I had another big impact after that because the car was continuously sliding, and I broke my hand in it. But I had no warning. They asked me 2 laps, 3 laps before how the car was, how the tires were. Yeah, all fine. I'm happy with the balance. And then, boom, you're gone. And we'd done a whole week's testing before. I never had a single moment, and it just goes on you. And that's kind of how oval racing is. It's all great until it's not. And they also say if you haven't crashed at Indy, well, you're going to. That's kind of the way it goes. It's just an interesting. No one can really get their head around it. Like you said, people sit in the pit lane, they wait for the optimal conditions, and I think sometimes, yeah, the more you do, the more you can drag yourself into a hole, especially with changing conditions. The car is the most finely tuned car I've ever seen, but it can be so upset by the smallest humidity change, temperature change, even the wind. I mean, the wind is probably the thing that caught me out in that race.
And talk us through the tools. I mean, a weight jacker, for example, you just never have seen one of those things before.
Yeah, it's already having the roll bars in the car, adjustable roll bars front and rear, is quite interesting because they were a real um, adjustment tool in Europe,
Yeah.
which engineers love to just tweak a little bit. Um, but we use them like fundamentally in Europe, and you come here and it's just like, yeah, if you want it, it's there. Play around, have fun with it.
It's all yours.
Exactly, and the difference is quite small. And sometimes I use them in the ovals. I use them quite a bit more, but the road courses, I'm not a big fan of using them too much. Just between the different tire sets and then small adjustments. But the weight jacker itself can change quite a bit how the car feels and how it approaches into the corner, and kind of adjusting that to what you need. It's super important. So for those who don't know, the weight jacker is adjusting the cross weight of the car and can effectively give you more turn in, give you more front end, or decrease it the same way. So if you're feeling a bit loose, as they say on entry, it's a little bit oversteery, which at that point, if it's oversteery anyway, you've got a problem. You go a bit up on the weight jacker, and it will give you some stability. So it's on the rear right shock, I believe. Maybe it's rear left, rear right. Trying to think. Yeah, rear right, and it's pushing. Has an actuator and pushes the cross weight of the car. So it's a fundamental tool. We don't have that on the road courses or street circuits, but that's used so much on the ovals.
And go and play with your tools, or learn how to play with your tools at 220 miles an hour. Do you ever think, I'm lost? I kind of got lost with this now.
Not really. I mean, there are some different things that you do for different sessions which require a bit of changing. But to be honest, from the F1 side, I got so used to changing all of these maps and switches that this is very easy compared to that. So that's quite helpful on that side. But it's a muscle memory. Sometimes you need to, like in qualifying, there's a way that it's run slightly differently, and you need to switch back before the corner. And that one, if you don't switch back and you forget, you're in the wall. So there's little things like that which your life depends on, which is nice in a certain way.
Oh, dear. So, second group at Texas, they're going to run the extra practice session, I think, as well this weekend, aren't they? Or the extra time?
Yes, I think it's 2 groups, 15 minutes each.
And what's your thoughts on that? Will we see a second group? I
So
mean, Scott McLaughlin was talking about Joseph Newgarden, and did you see that where they were sort of talking about that move for the lead last year? And there's like, I'll show him the high side. There's no way it's coming round me, and he's just all the way around the
yeah,
outside.
I feel a bit bad because I was like 2 cars in front. So I wasn't the last one, but I wasn't helping them. So I feel a bit bad for Scott because I think I was part of the problem for that. But yeah, we first, I think it was first tried in Texas last year, but not many cars did it. And then I tried it in Gateway and found it very helpful to kind of, especially as a rookie, establish what the difference is. And yeah, I think it could be quite good. The issue is like with Texas, for those again who don't know, there is something called PJ1 which was laid down for the NASCAR, and it's the slightly darker tarmac you see on the higher side of the track. And this is really grippy for NASCAR, but horrendous for us. So we have to run on these 2 lanes further down, and I think last year was the first time we properly were able to run 2 lanes, but just about, and there were a few accidents because of it. But there wasn't many cars that did this second lane practice. So I think as we start to do it, we'll see the limits of how high we can get. There's a few different regulations as well that should give us a bit more downforce. So we should see a bit more overtaking, a bit more pack running, but there is a limit to it as well. We can only go so high on these lines, and some people like to push that line a little bit. But at least if it's established what the limit is, there should be slightly less accidents because of it.
Yeah, talking about accidents, it's quite a confined timetable. So track time will be important, and therefore staying clean as well throughout the weekend, I think, will be pretty important.
Yeah, clean is really, really important. I mean, Jack Harvey had an accident last year and they had to roll out the spare car. Of course, he was not racing on the Sunday due to, should we say, some concussion stuff, I think. But they can sort that out for the Sunday, but yeah, you don't want to mess that up. I mean, the car would be in a completely different window. Even for me, we had to change front wings after Jack's accident because I got a bit of debris that hit my aeroscreen, my front wing, and even the top of my helmet a touch. And that changed the car completely for me when I had to change the front wing. So I can imagine changing car and going out for that race. That's a big discovery that you don't want to do, and can go either way. And yeah, being clean, just getting on with it. There's not even that much time to test stuff. So for us, having that day with Augustine was quite important.
So a bit of an unknown with all the new parts on the car. We wish you luck for Texas, but just before we go, looking now at 2023, we'll be through April soon. Then we're into the month of May. Things come really fast at you through the next couple of months. What are your ambitions for this year, and where do you see yourself fitting into this championship now?
Yeah, it's a tough one. There's a lot of good teams, a lot of good drivers. Obviously, last year was a discovery phase. I really think that we can get at least one or two podiums. I think if it's the right day, we can win. But of course, the podium is the benchmark. That's where I want to get a pole, a couple of podiums, be pretty happy. But it's the consistency side of things that I think is really important for me and the team. And if we start getting that consistency, it's possible to break into the top 10 of the championship. We have to be realistic that, the consistency side of things is maybe not our strongest point, but it's entirely possible if you don't make mistakes. So from my side, I don't want to make mistakes. I want to take it easy and slow and get those results, even if the day is not going the way you'd expect. But yeah, it's some good results I think are on the way.
Awesome. Well, listen, it's great to see you flying the British flag over in the USA. It's been fabulous watching you last year and this year. You're off the back of your best ever IndyCar finish heading into Texas. We wish you all the best, and you've been a great guest. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.